This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
And joining us once again, we've had him on numerous times before, also a very good, close personal friend. And in full transparency, I've used him as a surgeon 2 different times for rotator cuff, things of that nature. So I want to be upfront about it. But also a good friend and a knowledgeable person. Dr. Rick Lehman, U.S. Center for Sports Medicine. Doctor, glad to have you on board with us again.
Larry, thank you for having me on board.
Well, you have treated a lot of Olympians, including Jackie Joyner-Kersee and various pros. And I want to come back to that subject in a moment. But first of all, I want to get your take on all this latest run around hair on fire that we got to remask and we got to demand vaccinations because things are totally out of control with COVID or the Delta variant. And yet some sources, scientific sources, say that Delta variant might be more transmissible, but not near as deadly. In other words, your take.
Well, there's 2 problems with the CDC. The CDC has all this money, and all they need to do is do a double-blind study, and they need to give half the people masks and half the people no masks and see who gets infected more. And that was kind of done because in California, everybody was masked up, and in Florida, nobody was masked up. They should do a double-blind study to answer this question because if we're wearing masks for no appreciable reason, then we're wearing masks for no appreciable reason. The second thing is the Delta variant still probably is worse, and the people that are going to get the Delta variant are people that aren't vaccinated. But still, you have to think about this. These people are at low risk. So the numbers are creeping up. They're mostly in unvaccinated people. They say that you may be a carrier for the Delta variant and not ever get symptomatic. But lastly, why isn't the CDC doing simple studies to answer these questions? They have unlimited money, and that's where my problem is. They're not following the science.
Well, you raised a very good point there. And by the way, wherever you are, stay where you are because your cell was breaking, but it's very clear now. To that point, when Dr. Fauci had originally said, when this hit our shores, you don't need a mask, don't worry about it. And he later said, well, I did that because we had to protect it get the mask to medical personnel, frontline workers. He was with the National Health Institute of Infectious Diseases for years before that ever happened. CDC has been in existence. They didn't think ahead that this might happen at some day, but now they're all racing around. And Dr. Fauci had said about a week before the CDC revised the mask guidance, he said, look for the CDC to suddenly say you need to go back to mask. So are they taking instructions from him? Or are they actually doing what they think is best?
Well, I think they're following social media. They're following Dr. Fauci. They're following public sentiment, but they're not following the science. And whatever the science is, the science is. If they do a double-blind study and show that masks make a big difference, then we should all wear masks. But to just say now, since everybody's hacked off and concerned and we don't want to cause a panic, we're going to have everybody masked back up, that doesn't make any sense. That's not science. The other thing is, are we just going to shut down again? I mean, if the CDC now says, hey, we have to close all restaurants and close all schools and close all stores, are we going back to that? It can't be arbitrary. There has to be some semblance. We're smart people. There has to be some semblance of science to see what the cause is, number one. And, yes, I think everyone's going to get revaccinated because it's in Pfizer's best interest to revaccinate everybody or whoever, Moderna. If they sell another trillion doses, 500
bottom line,
they want you vaccinated.
Bottom line dollar. That's always in the back of many minds. And one other point along that line, we could do these studies. It'd take a while, but they could look at exactly what's happening. Some of the California counties that have the above average vaccination rates also reporting higher cases of COVID. There's one, not just a study, that's real life experience. I just had a report out of Cape Cod that 80% of those cases that suddenly popped up involved vaccinated people.
So, and again, so then you have to answer the question: is this not a good enough of a vaccine? Or if you get vaccinated, are you safe? I.e., you're not going to get real sick. I believe if you get vaccinated, you're probably not going to. You may get it, the Delta variant, but you're probably not going to get sick. But what we're seeing isn't vaccinated people; it's unvaccinated people generally, and the people that get vaccinated generally are less sick. Now, we're going to have to mutate the vaccination right, for the Delta variant and the Gamma variant. There's 2 or 3 variants coming. And the next, it's just like the flu. You got to change the vaccination.
And you're right to that extent. In fact, Dr. Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner, made that very point. He said that the Delta wave, he said, we're going to be through that in another 2 or 3 weeks, and we're into something else.
Well, and every time we have a virus, now we're going to shut down the country? I mean, that can't be.
All right, well, I want to go back. Before I do, real quick, this is something there was a physician I told the audience about the other day, talking about how woke some universities have gotten. A physician teaching a course at University of California Medical School, and he made a remark that he felt he had to apologize for. He said, I said when a woman is pregnant, which implies that only women can get pregnant, I most sincerely apologize to all of you. What is your thought as a physician when you hear another physician apologizing for saying only a woman can get pregnant?
Well, again, it's follow the science. That's the fact. And I think this whole thing where you can't call people he and she anymore, and you can't do any of these things has gotten beyond crazy. But to say that you're going to apologize because men can get pregnant belies the truth, right? Yeah. I mean, no man can get pregnant. That's just the way it is. But like you said, the woke out there, that they would make a correction like that, and that's just unbelievable.
All right. And now, I had mentioned earlier, and I know we're not violating any HIPAA because you've clearly acknowledged it before, as she has, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, obviously a gold medal winning Olympian repeatedly, and others that you have treated. You know the stress and the strain. You've been at the Olympics. You've watched this. You've been caring for them as they are participating. You know the stress and the strain they're under, not only physically but mentally. And you told me before about how pro players, be it football or hockey or baseball, suddenly have an injury and they begin to, in their mind, they're beginning to have a hard time. Can I get back? Am I going to be good? The Simone Biles thing the other day when she said that I just don't have the right mental frame of mind. A lot of people were mocking it and saying, well, you should have had that before you got to the Olympics. What is your take on that?
Well, it's a very interesting concept. So we have Naomi Osaka, a little bit of a different story, and Simone. And Simone felt that there was a dissociation between her mind and her body. That it's sort of like the pitcher who's throwing the ball into the third row. He just can't pitch anymore. And so her take on this is that she had, she didn't feel safe doing these tricks, and these tricks are dangerous,
sure.
or these skills, tricks or skills, and they're dangerous and they're very difficult. And her take on it was, all of a sudden I didn't feel like I could. It wasn't a mental breakdown. She felt like she was unsafe. Now, I will tell you, and who are great athletes are great athletes. And what do they want? They want the pressure. Monica Seles used to always tell me when it was 5-5 in the third set, that's when I was in love. This was the greatest thing ever. Michael Jordan always wanted the rock at the end of the game. So that's what a true champion is. But I don't think I think Simone's a woman. He's a little past her prime, 24, and is a gymnast, a little bit old. And I don't think she quit. I think she really felt like, something happened, something clicked in her brain. Maybe it was the pressure, everybody was talking about it, but she's had this pressure before, and she'll have this pressure again. So it's a very curious thing. I don't think it's a mental breakdown, but I do think as she gets older, she's going to question some of her skills, as Shaun White did. And I can name you 20 people I've taken care of who said, maybe this isn't a good idea at 31.
Well, here's the other part of that equation in the sense that, if she felt that unsure suddenly, then when she goes out, an accident's more likely to happen if you don't have the confidence. And that one of the 3 or 4 moves named after her that she's basically created. So she's obviously skilled.
Well, she's the most skilled.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. She can do stuff nobody can do, and she's, probably the gymnast we've ever seen. But, the mental part of it is a big part of it. I mean, that's the difference between Tom Brady and anybody but can throw the ball 70 yards. I'll get 100 people that can throw the ball 70 yards. That's not where the trick is. The trick is being Tom Brady and being able to motivate and knowing when to do what, and being not to – Jay Cutler couldn't do it. He was always under that pressure. He couldn't stand it. Tom Brady probably loves it. like the guy that climbs up El Capitan with no ropes. I mean, he's probably just the greatest thing in the world.
Well, let me ask real quick in a final 30 seconds, especially for the team, the Olympic team event, if she acknowledged that, I don't have the right head or I don't have the right skill or, I'm going to step out and actually it would help the team. Whereas if I insist I want to be part of it, I could hurt the team.
Well, she went out and got bad scores. I suppose she's right, because she would have bad scores and that would hurt the team event. I think people are disappointed. Sponsors are disappointed, but everyone's going to back her. No one's going to come out and say, "Oh, we're against herself." But she's right in the way. If she didn't really feel like she could perform, then she could have hurt the total team score, which they got a silver. Personally, I mean, if this were me, and she probably will do this, a sports psychologist, and I would work through this
and try to show her how to make it work. Dr. Lehman, as always, I appreciate your time, sir.
Larry, you're the best. Take care.
Thank you, sir. We'll do it again. Dr. Rick Lehman, U.S. Center for Sports Medicine. Speaking about the Olympics, of course, the mask. You're supposed to be wearing the mask. One Olympian, a U.S. Olympian, said, no. You want to hear this coming up.